Okay, we're going to call this Norfolk School Building Committee meeting to order. It's not on the agenda, but the first order of business, I think we're going to do another round of introductions because Justin wasn't here last time. Why don't we start over here?
Sounds good. I'm Michael Ryan, a resident of Norfolk since last year. Moved here last July.
Jason Whalen, also a resident of Norfolk, moved here about 18 months ago.
I'm Medora Champagne. I have lived in Norfolk since 2007, and I am one of the school committee representatives to the building committee.
I'm Grace Lockhead. I am also on the school committee. I've lived in Norfolk for maybe 6 years, but grew up in Rentham, so I'm a townie.
Ingrid Alardi, the superintendent in Norfolk.
Michael Corello, Norfolk resident since 2018.
And I'm Justin Casanova Davis. I'm the town administrator.
Great. So the first order of business tonight is to review and approve the minutes from our last meeting, which was January 30th. I don't know if everybody had a chance to take a peek at them. I did notice one thing myself. Lisa Sheldon seconded the motion, but Lisa wasn't here. It was me.
Yeah. Where?
Here.
Oh. Adrian did these for me too.
Yeah,
I'm sure
Who was
Lisa
it?
would
It was
have
Grace.
seconded it.
No, it was me, yeah. I'm sure she would have too.
We'll fix that. Thank you.
Anybody else see anything?
Nope. But I will move to approve the minutes with the clerical edit noted by the chair.
You guys a second?
Second that.
All those in favor? Aye. All right, great. Doing my best, Medora, moving right along.
Great job. Let's go.
Okay, so the next order of business is electing a vice chair. So obviously I was elected chair last meeting, so we're looking for the vice chair.
I'll do it if you want me to, but only you have to promise to be here all the time, as much as I
Learned
can.
if someone volunteers, you immediately motion for them to.
That's fine. But I want my gavel. I'm the chair. I get the gavel. All right. Let's see.
I motion for you to be vice chair.
Okay.
Second.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, welcome vice chair.
Thank you.
All right, next item on the agenda is the Demographic Analytic Advisors presentation, which we are going to have to toggle on the...
Toggle to start. I'm getting some help to see if I can get it on the speaker.
Perfect.
So if we toggle to start, I might be able to get that going.
Okay.
So at the last meeting, we discussed proposals for a firm, and you chose to appoint Demographic Analytic Advisors. So Prevost from DAA is here tonight, and they're going to talk about their plan for conducting the study and their timeline. So I'll turn it to Ron.
Okay, thank you. Please get my screen shared here.
Can everyone hear?
Can everyone see it?
Yes.
Beautiful. All right. Well, hey, it's very nice to meet you all, and I appreciate, our whole team appreciates the ability to work with you on this project. So I guess to get this going, basically what we'll be talking about, introduce our team, discuss this project scope, the process and methodology, the sort of data and information that we take into account, and our schedule of activities. Our founder is Chris Dick. He's the CEO. Together, all of us have about 60 or more years worth of demographic background. He has expertise in demography and forecasting in school districts, and, well, you can read the screen. He's worked at the Census Bureau, the USCIS, and then done work in the private sector as well. For me, again, the same thing. I have a doctorate in demography, I've done forecasting, school districts, population estimates. I was the state demographer for Ohio. I worked at the Census Bureau for 30 plus years. I was an inspector general at the Department of Commerce for statistical activities, et cetera. Our demographer and data scientist that works with us is Kean Anderson. His expertise in data analysis, demography, visualization, and mapping. So that's our team.
I think, yeah, can you move the slides ahead, please?
Can I do what?
The slides.
Hearing an echo.
Sorry, the slides aren't advancing? So I'm not, yeah, do we need to do that on our end? Or can you? I don't think we can if you're screen sharing.
We can't, because he's...
Oh, interesting. They're advancing on my end, but not yours. They're not advancing now?
They are now, I mean, it looks like you caught up.
There you go. Maybe they're on a time delay.
Okay.
We can see scope.
Okay, good. I'll do it slower then. So anyway, the scope of this project is to build a 10-year forecast by grade that includes the data collection, cleansing, and analysis. We're going to create some forecasts. It will culminate into a final PDF report, a slide deck for presentations for either us or you to provide other people. And I'll provide you choose. We can provide data in Excel spreadsheets. We can host it on a website, whatever works best for you. As far as meetings, we'll be working with you, internal meetings needed to collect the data and input. We'll be meeting with you again to discuss our process, and we'll have 2 virtual briefings as our final product. Okay. Did the slide forward? I can't tell.
No,
Not yet.
that's the problem with Google Meet. Sorry, when you're sharing your screen, you can't see it.
Yeah. Oh,
Interesting.
we also have a hard
Scope.
copy, so.
Yeah, you can keep going.
It'll catch up.
Okay, sorry. Okay, so you probably want to know what our methodologies are, and we begin each project with a baseline model. It's called modified grade progression ratios. It's grade progression ratios are kind of standard in the demographic community for doing enrollment forecasts. But we also have other tools. We will be taking a look at those other methodologies to see if they're more suited in different use cases. We determine the fit of the model based on any of the current data that we have, any concerns that are provided based on known developments or migration pattern changes or school choices. We use a wide variety of information. The information starts with your own enrollment data. We will be collecting vital events, collecting migration information. We'll be looking at future trends in things such as fertility, future trends in migration, mortality. Outside of the COVID era, it doesn't change very much, but we definitely have to look at all of that in order to come up with good statistics. Beyond looking at just the demographic statistics, we're now on the slide with the map. If it's still not advancing.
Nope,
It is.
Okay. Where we use a wide variety of other data to inform us. As you know, growth occurs along with corridors, and in certain areas, growth faster than others. So we'll be looking at patterns of housing change. We'll be taking a look at the master plans that your planning department has, not only to see what's coming up in the short term, but what are coming developments. And we all know that plans are wonderful things. Often what's planned or permitted does not necessarily mean that it's actually going to come into play, and sometimes
it comes into play longer or at a later point in time than one normally would expect. And so we've already had a chat with your town planning person, and we've gotten some really good information from him. Our schedule, well, we had a kickoff this last week. We're now in our data collection phase, and we've started with the data that we have, processing it into geographic areas. Next week, we'll be looking at analyzing the data, making sure that we are not seeing any anomalies in it, making sure that we're processing it correctly. About the beginning 2 weeks of March, we'll be actually producing our forecasts, and then creating a draft report, draft output, and then final report will be delivered mid-March, the 15th. So at that point, I'll just ask you if you have any questions.
Ron, I would say we have been working together over the past week and a half in terms of gathering data. There's a lot of data that you guys have started with that's publicly available data from the Department of Ed website, and data you gathered from Rich McCarthy. We're also providing them 10 years of actual enrollment data with much more detail by address, location, population. We're just in the process, before we can release that data, we have to get a data privacy agreement in place. So that's been sent, they're reviewing it. We've got all the data prepared to upload to your portal as soon as we get that last piece in place. And then they'll have what they need to move forward.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you. And thank you for preparing the data so rapidly for us.
No problem. So questions from anybody in the group?
Yeah, Ron, thanks for coming. My name is Justin Casanova Davis. I'm the town administrator here. One thing that you mentioned, particularly when you're talking about the data information you use, you mentioned, plan and permit, sometimes it doesn't come to fruition. Can you just dive in a little bit? How do you guys grapple with that because that's a reality of a lot of, communities or organizations you work with. How do you handle that?
Well, in general, the first thing that we look at is the basic statistics that are coming out of the census that's been taken already. We take a look at your assessment rolls from your your property taxes. We take a look at the building permits, and one thing you do is you compare the building permits with your assessment rolls and see how well that they align, and you can tell often the timing of the change of the assessment as it relates to a permit in the past. One cannot always predict what the lag times are going to be in the future based on the past. So in this case, we've talked with your town planner, and he has mentioned to us that there are some developments that can be expected. However, I asked specifically what the lag times were. And with any project, they're all variable, but apparently the lag times in building have actually increased over time. Particularly, if I'm understanding correctly, due to providing services to the actual addresses where those units are going to be built, particularly electric.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
That's great. Just one additional question on top of that. Thank you, Ronald. To what degree it will in addition to the quantitative information that will be provided, to what degree will that type of qualitative perspective and insight be included in the presentation?
In the final presentation?
Yes, yep.
We will provide the factors of change that we have projected, and we will discuss what all our assumptions were. So, for example, we know in general, nationally, that household size is reducing, right? There are less children in general, and it's the people that are having children are still having 2 to 3, but there's less of them having children. And a lot of demographic characteristics like that will apply into the assumptions, as well as changes in mortality rates. And we'll be taking a look at not only what we've produced, but what other people have produced in the projection sphere. I know that the state of Massachusetts does it, UMass Donahue, rather. And we're actually good friends with them, and we'll be having a chat with them to make sure that our assumptions are in line with what they think as well, or at least we'll get their opinion on it.
Yep, that's great, thank you.
Any other questions for DAA? All right. All right, thank you, Ron, for joining us and for the overview, and I will be in touch tomorrow to see if we can get you the rest of the data.
Sounds great. We look forward to it.
All right, thanks. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Even more a question for us a bit. They had mentioned they're going to do 2 virtual briefings.
Yes.
So what's our plan for, is obviously one's to present to our committee. Is there, are we planning to have both to the committee, or are you going to have it to your larger school committee or select board, or have we thought about that yet?
I think that's really up to this group. It was included in the quote that they would do 2, one partway through the through the project and then one final. I think my suggestion would be the midway briefing be to this committee, and then the final be open to the public. I mean, all of these meetings are filmed, so they're all really available to the public. But maybe we do the last one as a community forum, so everybody can ask questions, but I think that's really up to this group, how you want to. And then they have in their plan that they will do additional briefings. There's just a charge. Yeah, so if we wanted to do another community forum at a later date.
Thank you.
Sounds good.
Okay, moving on to the enrollment survey for current families. So that's Exhibit 3. And Ingrid, do you want to?
Sure. So at the last building committee meeting, we talked about 2 parallel processes. So first, demographic analytics advisors are working on their long-range projection study, but we also talked about looking at our current enrollment and surveying all of our families to really understand the intent that they have for next year. Are their kids going to be re-enrolling with us? Are they considering homeschooling or private settings, so that we could look at our current population and be able to assess any changes there and also share that data back with DAA. One of the things that many people at this table are well aware of is we are in a really, really tight budget situation, and we're looking at pretty much broad cuts across all departments. So one of the other pieces of data the school committee and the budget subcommittee wanted to gather was whether or not people are going to be accessing school transportation, because that might allow us to cut a bus from the route or reroute things. So I'm suggesting we combine 2 surveys in one, so we're not over surveying our families. So I told you I would bring a draft of questions to you. What we are suggesting is that after the February vacation, because if we send things out on Friday, we're not going to get a return. But after the vacation, we send the survey to all families and ask them to complete one for each child they have enrolled with the district. As you can see, it would ask for the child's name, the school the child attends, the grade the child will be entering in the fall, and then just basic questions. Will your child be attending the Norfolk schools next year, yes or no? We do want to find out if they're not anticipating their child attending, whether they are attending another public school system due to a move, whether they'll be attending a private school, a charter school, or participating in a homeschool program. So capturing that data. And then, again, adding that one question, whether or not their child will be accessing school-based transportation. So I would propose that we send that out, then I can summarize the data of the 1,041 students we have, this is what we're seeing, this is what we expect for next year, and we can also share that data on with DAA. Now, they're going to look at past trends, but this will just be current projections. So I wanted to bring those to the committee to see if there's any additional data that we should be seeking, if anybody had other questions that they thought we should be gathering at this point. If not, I should be able to get this out and be able to summarize at least the data that we have by the next school building committee meeting.
I know we typically have a pretty good response to school-based surveys. But
Yeah, and
what's the average, like, I mean, how many?
Well, it depends on the survey. With this kind of survey, like when we had to do this for COVID and we had to assign people to transportation, we got 100% response, because when people didn't call, we called them and said, can you please answer these questions, because otherwise your child's not going to be assigned to a bus. So my intent would be to send it out Monday, the Monday we return, which I think is the 26th, give people a week, and after that week have our secretaries reconcile that with their roster and start resending and making calls till we get, till we get the majority of our students.
Okay. And you
How
can
does it go
remind
out?
Wednesday.
Yep, we could put it in the Wednesday's words as well.
It's usually like a link, right, Ingrid, that would come?
An email, or goes out to
Yeah,
an
so
email?
we send it, when we send this out as a Google survey, it's a link, and we embed the link right in the email. Please take the, click on the link below to complete a quick survey, to register and we'll say to register your child for school and for transportation. That usually gets people to click in.
Yeah.
So if there aren't additional questions, I will add in the intro the date of return that we want the surveys back. I just, depending on when we agreed to send it out, I haven't put that in, but I will add that.
I like the bus being included, because it softens it a little bit.
Yeah.
When it's more actionable. I like that. That was my one concern, so I like that.
Yeah, I was worried as well that you want people to accurately represent their plans, not, for any other reason,
Right.
advocate one way or the other, looking for, so I think having the transportation registering, people are going to want to say, yes, my kid's there, so they get their bus transportation if they need it. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yeah.
That's
also just
Any
helpful.
other major? All right. So if I send it out the 26th, at the end when we schedule meetings, I might only have preliminary data if it's only been a week, but I'll update you as we're gathering this. Sound okay?
Great. Okay, the next agenda item is the homeschool and private school enrollment survey, Exhibit 4.
So the other piece that we talked about was, over the past several years, since the COVID closure, we've seen an increase in the number of families who are opting to homeschool or pursuing private or charter school education. In talking with both NESDEC and some of the other demographic firms, while they can look at some national data and do some projections, it's a newly emerging trend. NESDEC had recommended to us, in order to better understand your local data, the best way to do it is to conduct your own internal study. So what we had talked about doing was pulling the list of all of, so we file a school attending child report, so we know every child in Norfolk, their name, the contact information, and address for families that are attending private school as well as for families that homeschool, because we have to review and approve those programs. So our thought was, I can either transition this into a survey and we can send that out, but as I shared before, a lot of times if people aren't enrolled with us, they're not going to complete a school survey. When I was in a previous district, we did this through phone calls and said, ask families, do you have a few minutes? We're trying to understand our data patterns, to answer some quick questions, and to reach out to all of the students that we know that are currently registered for a homeschool program or for a school-based program. If we can't get people over the phone, then we would do it as a mailer and a email link. And that would allow us to sort of better understand what's driving people's decisions, and are they considering returning to the Norfolk Public Schools. I also included in the draft questions for your review the possibility that some families might be intending to return their students as they hit middle and high school. That's often the trend. You often see people because they want to participate in sports and clubs and after-school programs, advanced placement courses. So many families that begin their child's educational career homeschooled do consider transitioning. So this would just allow us to capture that data and also to share it with the middle and high school for their planning purposes. So I said again, I would bring a draft of questions for the committee to look at, and if there's any other things you want me to capture in these, again, we would begin this after the February vacation.
Logistics-wise, how many people, is it like 40? How many are homeschooled?
About 94. Between home and private right now, it's
Yeah.
about 94. It's gone up significantly. We used to only have, 13 and maybe 20 in private, so it's gone up significantly.
So you're going to try to have a staff member try to reach out by calling first?
That's what we're going to do.
Some of those
And
are
it'll be me and Vicky.
multi-student
You've
families.
met our office
so-
staff. It's me, Vicky, and Adrian will be
that's
making
what
those
I'm
calls. Yeah.
So,
But like I said, when we did this before, if you send it out to people that aren't enrolled,
Yeah, I
the
mean, if
return
they see it in
rate's
Norfolk Public Schools.
significantly lower. So we thought we'd start with a call. If people don't take the call, then we'll try sending a mailer and an email survey link.
so with so many people, I didn't realize it was 94. I thought it was closer to 30 or 40. Would it be a little bit more structured if we had predetermined answers, kind of like this survey, just that it's easier to gather and read the data?
We certainly could. We could put it into a Google form and the person calling could just click the boxes. So I could certainly transition. I mean, most of these are yes, no, except for one that would be an open-ended.
That's a bold number 10.
Well, mine was kind of
That's how
open too.
9 and 10 are both. Those are the ones that would be open-ended. Number 4, what was the primary reason you chose to homeschool? I think this is important for us to know.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
So that we can think about, is there anything that we can do in response to that? And I just put in some of the things when I had done this again. I had done this in a prior district, and things that came up were religious reasons, legacy reasons for certain private schools. The family went social reasons. So we could do that as a drop-down and leave an other, if you wanted to do it that way. And then again, 9 and 10 are open-ended too. What factors might impact your decision to come back? And that, I think, would have to be open-ended because I'm not sure what people are going to say in response to that. But I can certainly transition to a Google form too, and we can use that. Whoever's calling can check the boxes, and then if we don't get a response, we can just send the form to the families via email or mail.
Do we have any insight into the number of pre-K students? So that wouldn't be captured, I guess, on the...
That wouldn't be captured. What we do have is, so public education in Massachusetts is mandatory beginning at age 5 or kindergarten. So preschool is not mandatory. We do have quite a few families that have reached out to us. We have a wait list for our preschool right now of about 70 families. But because it's not mandatory, that data is not, if they don't enroll with us, we don't know if they've enrolled somewhere else or if they're opting not to. And we only know about people that have called to be in the program.
Yep.
Because again, it's not mandatory till age 5.
Makes sense.
Ingrid, going along with what Jason was thinking, I also think about logistics for your team, and I know you guys can make the calls to 90-plus people, but maybe my suggestion, try the Google form first and send it out and see what your response is, and then maybe call the people that you don't get a response from.
We can do it that way.
Because there's a lot of families
Yeah.
to call, and that's what I would prefer for you guys' bandwidth.
We can certainly try.
And I agree with you, though, because I could expect, if they're not enrolled in Norfolk Public Schools and they see something from Norfolk, they might just go to the spam folder, or they might
Right.
just ignore it. So I understand why you're doing, but it's like, give it a good try first before you end up doing all
Before we
that
call,
work.
we can certainly try that and see, build the database, send it out, and see what we get for a response. And then my guess is we might knock a handful of people off, I think. But we'll try it,
It could
like
help
you
with
said,
data
it saves
collection
some-
anyway.
Yep.
Just having it
We can
aggregated,
do it that way.
yeah.
Absolutely. Any other questions or that would be worthwhile? Anything that would be helpful for us to capture from the town side or anything?
I don't think so. I think this is pretty comprehensive. Good job, thank you.
All right, so the recommendations are transitioning this into a Google Form spreadsheet, beginning by sending it out as an email to our families that are homeschool or private school, with a plea to please fill it out, and then to follow up with calls to support gathering any missing data. Sound good?
Maybe notification on the Facebook page. I feel like a lot of people, not the link necessarily, but hey, be on the lookout for this survey. There's I feel like a lot of people look at that page.
Yep.
Also, just a quick suggestion is like, when you send the email, maybe put like one of those like in the byline, like 3-minute, 5-minute estimate or something.
Yep.
Because I feel like people are way more likely to interact with something if they're like, it's going to be quick versus like, what am I clicking onto right now? Is it going to be half of my day?
Yep. Yeah, we've all clicked in and it's like
Yeah,
45 minutes, yes. That's a good point. I can certainly do that.
Because if someone has a rough idea what they're doing, it should only take them
Yeah, it should be
less
very
than 10
quick.
minutes. Yeah.
And I can put in the narrative, again, it's just to help us appropriately budget and plan for future years. That might help us to get some data back. All right, so I think that will be great. So we have a plan for the demography, we have a plan for the internal study, so hopefully within the next few weeks, we'll have some really good data to look at as we think about moving forward, and I'll do my best to summarize it and bring it back.
This is great.
Great. Okay, so scheduling future meetings.
Yes. So we talked about Thursdays in general working well, and we talked about maybe meeting every bi-weekly. My one suggestion, because we just are sending data, if we get the privacy agreement settled tomorrow, we'll be sending data to DAA tomorrow afternoon. It's going to be a couple of weeks before we have much to consider from them, and we're just sending the survey out on the 26th. So I'm wondering, because until we really get all this data back, we're going to be slow to move forward. Then we have to get into the modular solutions and everything else. So I'm wondering if we want to potentially delay the next meeting until like March 7th, or so maybe go 3 weeks and then look at a bi-weekly schedule, or, I'm open to whatever everybody else wants
That's
to do.
reasonable. Yeah, 'cause otherwise, we're just going to sit here and kind of chit chat.
Yeah, we're not going to have a lot until we have data.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That would be great.
Just a quick question.
Yeah.
So Thursdays is what works best for the majority of the committee?
Yeah, does that work terribly for you?
It works terribly for me, but I'm not meeting every week, so I can adjust my schedule as necessary.
Okay. I'm open to looking at a different night if you
They all
wanted
work.
to.
I'm good for any night, Monday through Thursday.
Tuesdays, Wednesdays,
So, Tuesdays, we often have school committee and subcommittees, but I'm open to a
Wednesdays.
different day of the week if people want to go with a different day of the week.
Wednesdays would work for me. I mean, and it would, once we get into April and May, Tuesdays and Thursdays get super weird for me. So Wednesdays would be great.
Perfect. So,
Yeah,
do we want to
Wednesdays.
switch it? Does Wednesday work?
Wednesday works a lot better for me.
Okay.
Wednesdays in general work for me. I'll be out of town for business on the 6th, however.
Okay. I mean, we could probably wait till the 13th if we want. By then, we will have summarized data.
Yeah, we could have
And
email-
we could have the preliminary report to the
demographer's
committee
preliminary, yeah.
by that. So if we want to do March 13th, and then after that, again, go with bi-weekly, like the 27th.
So the 13th and then the 27th and then the 10th. Okay.
10th, 24th. I do think this initial part is going to just take a little bit of groundwork, so this committee has something to really work with.
And even if somehow they get done earlier, then it just gives us a little extra time for us to review it independently, and then when
Yep.
we come together, we'll kind of probably more to add to it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Does that sound good? So the next
That
meeting would be
Absolutely.
March 13th, the day after our budget hearing. All right, March 13th, and then we'll go March 13th and the 27th, and then the 10th,
Okay. Sounds great.
maybe just book those next three and then hold from there. See where
I'll
we're
call my calendar for that. Thank you.
Perfect, excellent. Same time, everybody, 7 o'clock work?
Yes. Perfect.
We're open to earlier or later if anybody.
7 is perfect.
Yeah, 7th.
Yeah, I can't do
well.
earlier.
Yep, perfect, okay. All right, that's all we have for tonight, so unless anybody has anything else.
Motion to adjourn.
Yeah, there you go. Motion to adjourn.
Second.
right. All's in favor?
All right, great, thanks, everybody.